Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese Apel and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. And we will get to our podcast here shortly, but are you interested in building wealth through real estate? Have you ever thought about that? You can join Brian Biernat and Daniel Anderson each week as they sit down with top investors, lenders, and industry experts to share real world strategies that work. We are so thankful to the Brickfolio podcast for supporting our show. You can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or visit their link tree. Just look for Brickfolio Pod to learn more. Well, y'all listen here. We are back with another episode. I'm Barbie Bassett. So excited and thankful to have you here with us on the Y'all Listen Here. I've got my good friends, Traci Lee with Your Hometown Country, US 96.3. I mean, you would think that after almost, 2 years, 3 years, that I would finally get that. That's a mouthful, Traci.
It is a mouthful, and I don't feel bad. If I gave my dad $100 to tell me where I worked, he couldn't. So it's totally fine.
At the radio station, that's what we say.
He'd say, "Yeah, you're doing
She's at the
something."
radio station.
That's fine.
And we've got Therese Apel here with Dark Horse Press. Hey, Therese.
Hey, y'all. And speaking of funny ways that people mess up your names,
Yep.
when I first started Dark Horse Press, we went to a breakfast that had some cocktails. And the lady that introduced us said, "This is Therese and Nicole from Dork House Press." And I was like, yeah. So whenever it came time for me to speak, I just said, Dork House Press, guys.
That is hilarious. Well, there's somebody else's name that we know we can't mess up, and that is Daniel Anderson.
That's right. Dan the man.
Daniel, there he is. He is our podcast producer with Audio Alchemy Productions. Of course, if you're interested in having your own podcast, he's the one you want to call. He makes us look good, or at least bless his heart. He tries. It has been a while. Traci, you're now working early morning, so we've had to kind of change or adjust when we're doing our podcast. So now you're on mornings. Are you loving it?
I really have missed interacting with the listeners.
Yes.
Very much. I love them. I love them so much, and it's good to be able to talk to them and encourage them and do that. But I'm back at I get up at 1:15 and do the things, and I know people freak out, but I'm in bed. I'm asleep by 6. So, it's just a different time. Y'all know you're in media.
Yeah.
You know
but
how that goes.
we try to make sure that we're not group texting after
it's
4
fine.
p.m. in the afternoon because we're like, Tracy's probably sawing logs by now.
I'm in the bed at 4, yeah.
Yeah. So you've changed, okay? Your schedule has changed. So now, Therese, you actually get to see Traci more because y'all are there at the same time, right?
Yeah, see you in the morning.
Yeah, we see each other a little bit.
Yeah.
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 And you recently put out to your listeners, to your followers, what are some topics that you're interested in that you would like to see us cover? And I think it's so interesting that we cover this topic because both of y'all are, different times in the morning. You've changed your schedule. I'm just trying to hold it all between the lines myself.
Aren't we all? Yeah.
But the topic is, when do you stop becoming? When do you stop evolving as an adult? I think we all have this preconceived idea that once you get your career set, you are there. And then you can stay in that career for 35 or 40 years, and then you retire. And y'all, I'm seeing more changes at this stage in my life, in my career, in my home life, than I ever have. So how do you keep becoming, if that is a way to put it, how do you keep becoming as an adult when you're no longer a teenager? Because as a teenager, you've got your whole life in front of you, right? You're always becoming. That's what we think. When you're young, you've got everything in front of you. But I'm seeing that we're still doing that even at our ages.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're the same person that we were when we were 20. And our society very much loves a checklist.
Right.
They love the boxes. You go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you graduate, you get married, you have kids, you have grandkids, you retire, and you travel. That's the perfect Americana checklist.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And when your checklist doesn't get checked or you skip a box, then what? So I feel like, I know Therese and I are both single, so I feel like we've been navigating the becoming differently
Yeah.
from other people because we had to pivot at an early age
Yeah.
on what that looks like. So we're constantly evolving and moving. But for somebody who's checked those boxes and gone through that, and then all of a sudden they're in their 40s or 50s,
Mhm.
and life is like, we're taking a different path, right?
Yes.
And you're like, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
is not on my box. This is not on my checklist. I don't
Yes.
know what's happening here. And panic and fear set in because what do I do now? What do I do now? I think about that, Barbie, because of what happened to you. I
Yeah.
remember hearing about your situation, and it was so sobering for me as a member of the media and thinking, my gosh, the hours, the time that I have poured into my career,
Mhm.
away from my family, away from my friends, can be snatched away
Yeah.
from me. And then what?
Yeah. And then what?
Yeah.
Because you just made a great point. So much of our lives has been spent working for someone else
Hmm.
and time away from your family trying to build their brand,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
build whoever your boss is, trying to build their brand. And when they ask you to come into work on your days off and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this because I'm a team player and I want the
Right.
boss to see that
Right.
I
Yeah.
will do
I'm
anything.
valuable.
Yes, I'm valuable." And then you get thrown that curveball and you're like,
Yeah.
"Wait, so I really didn't matter
Right.
after 25 years?
Right.
I'm that easily canceled?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I know I'm not the only one who's been dealing with that, "Oh, I wasn't expecting to have to change my career
Right. Well, look
at
at what
this
just
stage."
happened at iHeart.
Oh, I
It's like
know.
every 3 months they keep firing people. I'm like, "Who is left over
Yeah,
there?" My gosh, like the stations in Jackson, and I'm giving you the tea. The stations
yeah.
in Jackson, they have 6 stations in that cluster, in that building. They have 1 programming person, 1
What?
in that building to take care of all of those 6 stations. I would sit in the floor in a fetal position and cry. I do that now, and I've only got 2 stations
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
I'm trying to take care of, and I've got a staff, and
yeah,
they don't have anybody, so I don't. It's so volatile right now with the way the economy is going, and then you've got AI, and all of these
Oh,
things
yeah.
are switching and jobs are disappearing. I mean, it's a scary time to be a professional in America. But I think that we need to focus on the hope of this. There is a part two. And
mhm.
sometimes the part two is so much better than the part one because you're a different person.
Well, and I think so you were talking about kind of selling yourself to someone else's brand, but I'm one that I've built me as a brand. So I built
Hmm.
my brand. And I was at the Clarion Ledger and it was time to go. So I went and I did some other things and I did this and that. But I while I do have loyalty to an extent, I'm one of those people that's like, I'm not gonna stay here if it's not working. And I go. And so the thing is, the brand that I've built is very much centered around my coverage of law enforcement, first responders, crime, that kind of thing. But now we live in a world where, like, if you understand, if you know more than somebody, if you're educated, like for me, I know police procedure, I know policy, I know how these things work. So when I say, I hear what you're saying and you're angry, but this is how XYZ works. Somebody
Hmm.
says, well, you're pro cop, and suddenly that cancels out anything. But on top of that, so I've got this whole brand I've built. It's the one thing I'm good at. And now I'm tired. I don't want one more dead baby. I don't
Hmm.
want one more dead cop. I don't want one more riot at Walmart. I don't want any of that. So how do you grow from there?
That's so
What's the next
good.
step after that? So we build these things thinking, this is me, this is what I am. And
Hmm.
then you hit the point where it's like, for whatever reason, is God redirecting me? Is he telling me to sit down and rest? Is he telling me to listen to him? And that's always the answer, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm gonna tell you too something that I just saw in my head. I see things in pictures.
Yeah.
I'm a picture person. I'm doing a Bible study from Gretchen Saffels. I love her. I love her. She does the Well Watered Woman,
Yes.
and right now she does Word Before World. That's the one that I'm in, and she loves to put plants into her message because she lived Green Thumb. She does all this stuff. But when you were talking about that, something I saw this picture in my head that when you are growing, let's say a Christmas cactus, for example,
Hmm.
it grows and it's green and it's alive. And look at how beautiful it is. It's good. But the second part of that cactus is bloom.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And what if you have done this? You have been alive, you have done these things, you've done exactly what you need to do. But the second part is bloom. That's the beautiful part. That's the part that drives us to flowers. The green part helps us all live on this earth, let's be honest.
Mhm.
But the flowering part is just the lanyard of what you get to do because you've already done the root work.
I've been looking more at the life of Paul
Yeah.
in the Bible, and I thought it was interesting and doing some research more that it had his ministry career
Mhm.
had gone along for decades. When he wrote in Philippians 3:12, "Not that I have already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on."
Yeah.
So even after decades of him being settled and probably happy and secure and, "Hey, I know what I'm doing in ministry now," this guy is saying, "Wait, I'm still becoming."
Yeah.
That is what becoming more like Christ is.
But you know what happened to him? Look at his great tragedy. You
Yes.
know, he was
Mhm.
persecuting the church, and Jesus said, "No more."
Yeah.
And here he is blind, sitting in Cornelius's house, going, "What in the world?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he starts the second part of his
Yes.
ministry
Right.
that literally changed the world.
Mhm.
And he still, because he went through the great change,
Mhm.
still realizes there's more still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more still. There's more on this side. So if you've been downsized from your job, if you find that you're just in this weird place, there is another side. And with God, that side sometimes is better than the side you were in.
Right. Well, and I'm glad that you brought him up like
Yeah.
that because I admit it quite often, but I have personal fights with Paul sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that he says that I'm like, no, sir, which
Mhm.
I know, whole nother discussion, right? But the fact is, so we do this thing where we look at Paul and we say, what a great orator, no, or, you know, what a great
Mhm.
teacher, what a great, all these things. He was great before that.
Yeah, he
He
was.
was
Mhm.
a great, you know, Pharisee. He did all the things that he did, and he even said that. And it's one of the things I have a problem. You're so cocky, Paul. You know, but he gets in there like I was a Pharisee of Pharisees. I
Yeah.
was a Jew of Jews.
Yeah.
He was.
Mhm.
The lesson in that, I think, for all of us, in what you and I have just divulged, and what you may be dealing with, and what you, the viewers and listeners, whatever, are dealing with. Think about Think about the fact that Paul gave up all that and he followed Christ.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, the Twyla Paris song, He Is No Fool, that talks about, I can't remember the missionary's name now, although I always know it. My brain's not pulling up names today, but, you know, the one that left everything he had to go be a missionary to the cannibals, and they ended up killing him.
Mhm.
Yes.
And the song talks about, and it's what he said, Jim Elliott, that's his name. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep
Mhm.
to follow Christ.
Mhm.
And that's the truth of it. You know, just because you've established yourself as something, because you have a certain amount of followers, because you've made a certain amount of money, when God calls you to divert from that path, you best follow him, whatever it looks like, and whatever it takes for him to get you to do it. Because I think that's the hard part. And Barbie, I can't look at you when I say this because I'll cry. But sometimes he hurts us, he allows us to really hurt so that we will stop and we'll say, all right, well, where are you taking me?
Oof. Yeah. So if Paul was still becoming, we are still becoming too.
Sure.
And it's almost like the Lord shifts our perspective from achievements to transformation.
Mhm.
And even through the hell that I've gone through,
Right.
I feel like I've transformed
Definitely.
because the transformation is to become more Christ-like. I would like to think that I would have been Christ-like at the television station, but perhaps that's what he wanted more of me.
So I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Dr. Charles Haynes over at MC. He used to be with MBI, MHP, big in the law enforcement community. And we were talking about when you have faith, you know, we spend our lives trying to look like Christ. And he said, but don't forget what happened to him. He was crucified.
Mm.
So if we're going to live like Christ, there will come a time that we are crucified. We're
Yeah.
crucified with Christ. I mean, the Bible says that.
Mhm.
And I feel like on the one hand, like, yes, be careful with that analogy. We're not Christ, you know. But on the other hand, every one of his disciples was killed some terrible way except John. So tell me again that we aren't supposed to, you know, hit roadblocks, that we're not supposed to hurt and evolve, that we're not supposed to, you know, because he called us to go out and find people and bring them to him. That's not a safe way of doing anything. And you've got to learn to adapt in so many ways as Christians, but also just trying to live in this world we live in. Because even when you're not a Christian, it's rough. I can't imagine trying to do it like that,
Oh, my
though.
word. So perhaps God is less concerned with our resume, but more concerned with our character and the transformation that he wants us to go through in the becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to point one thing. I do want to say one thing. It's okay if you cry
Yeah.
in the transition. It's not a happy thing when your life gets pulled out from under you or something changes. It's okay to live in that, not live there, but it's okay to experience those emotions of disappointment and frustration and questioning why. I think it's healthy for us to do that. And I think it's for Christians, it's an opportunity for us to tuck ourselves under his wing and let him love us back to where we're going because there is no end with God. There is no end. There is no death on this earth, yes, but eternally that has been taken care of. And if that happens in your career, in your marriage, maybe a relationship with your child, there's still hope on the other side, but it's still okay to mourn those things
Yeah.
and to miss those things. But there is hope.
Well, and when he said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted," the word that is used, there are a couple of different definitions, but one of them is "they shall laugh," and
Mhm.
the idea is not just that, but blessed are those who mourn.
Mhm.
You know, like God gives us grief. He gives us that whether it's over your career, over people you love that you lose, things like that. But that grief that just says, I don't know how to operate in this loss.
Mhm.
That's a blessing because it pulls you closer to him.
Mhm.
It puts you in a place where you've just got to go be like, Dad, I don't know how to fix this. And let
Mhm.
him take it, you know?
Every season has a calling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every season has a calling.
I feel like we're going to get off the air and we're all going to just break down because I am.
Well, maybe this is a good stopping point for us to transition over to our Patreon channel. You
Yeah.
know, that is the channel where we are able to have a little bit more of a conversation, say some things that we just didn't feel comfortable saying here, or maybe we just didn't have time for. So we would love to see you join us over there. We'll be sure that we put a link in the comments below so that way you can go check that out. But thanks again for
Thanks,
the
Love
y'all.
y'all.
conversation.
Yeah.
And until then, we will see you again on another episode of Y'all Listen Here.